then I didn't know if there's anything that you want to go over, like issues you're having, maybe back-wise, or are you good?
I think I'm okay. I know that I didn't really tight, like up in my back shoulders area, but I don't know if that's just stress related, and so um,
Next week or
not next Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, so I still have. If I count today, it's 7 days. If I don't count today, it's 6, 4, 5. No, I'm sorry, 5, 6. See, on my brain.
If I had to guess, you're holding your breath.
You know, I do. I find my shoulders up a lot, like this, and I know that's why I carry my stress, and so I feel like, oh, back here in this area, and so I try to like tell myself to like relax my shoulders and just kind of like not be so tight all the time. So I think that's what it is.
Did I show you how to put a little ball in a sock to get that out?
Yes, you did. And I did it, and I lost my socks. I got to find it again.
Okay.
We had people come to visit, and we had to like clean really fast, and so it got put somewhere that I don't know where it is. Yeah, that's how we clean in my house. I don't know. I don't know if everybody else does that, but
I threw everything in my closets, and it looks like my house is perfectly put together, but then I open the closets and everything falls out at the end of the party.
exactly. So I need to get the tennis ball back out, and so will that work for right here in this area as well? Then
I would do between your shoulder blades, and then also like lean into that too.
okay.
I've had people say, like some other therapists, what they do is they put the ball on a threshold of a door and they lean into it, you know, like that. So you can do it without the sock too, if you can find the ball.
Okay. So, yeah.
Because that muscle just wants to go up like that.
Yeah. And I find myself doing that a lot just because I get tense, and I guess I don't know if everybody gets like that, but I find myself, I kind of like go like this a lot. So.
But yeah, next week will be a different story probably. But in the meantime, you need to survive. So just try to.
Yeah, trying to just whatever, put my shoulders down. And one of my students this morning said, "Miss Toni, is your back hurting?" Because I think I kind of made a movement or something. And I said, "It's hurting a little bit." And she was like, "Oh, okay." So, yeah.
Can you talk about holding breath a little bit?
You want me to?
Yeah, I would love to hear you talking about holding breath and what it does, and
so
important.
You know how the pelvic floor and diaphragm, they work together as a team. So the diaphragm's here, the pelvic floor is here. So when you hold your breath here, you're holding this. This all clamps up and gets tight, and then that's how we we don't get this area to move, and that's a problem with people who have pelvic floor dysfunction. So, and sometimes we don't even know what normal is because we're just holding ourselves normally like that. So we don't understand that, like when we go to the bathroom, the urine should just kind of come out easy. A lot of my patients don't even realize that they're doing it. And then when we change that pattern, they're like, oh, everything's moving better and working as it should. Because you should be able to empty your bladder, but also to keep the urine in. But it just affects the core. I mean, you can't strengthen your core if it's held into a knot or if you're holding, because the diaphragm and the pelvic floor move together. So when you breathe in, they both kind of go down. It's actually more like that. And then when you breathe out, they come up like that. Okay. So meaning that the two muscles, the diaphragm and the pelvic floor. So, and then when you hold your breath, so I always wondered like why we have up here when our chest is heavy and it pulls us down, but I think it's because you use the upper respiratory muscles to breathe from, so you're breathing like this when you're stressed. You're taking a lot of huffs, but you're not breathing from your belly. So if you breathe from your belly, you're going to breathe from that diaphragm muscle, and you're not going to have all the tension here. So breathing calms the whole nervous system down, so it'll make you more relaxed in general. You'll be tired because breathing mindfully takes practice and it takes work. It's not automatic. Automatic is you're on autopilot. Your brainstem is what's having you breathe. It's not anything you have to think about. but when you breathe mindfully, you're using your brain, this brain, the critical brain or the cerebrum. But the breathing that we do automatically comes from the brainstem, which is the lower center. It's just a reflexive, pattern that just we don't have to think about. That's why we are alive, because we don't have to think about it. It's a good thing, because we'd all be dead if we had to think about it all the time. So it's a different form of breathing, and it's using your brain, which is tiring because you have to wrap your head around it, and you're not used to breathing that way. So you might have heard of like mindfulness or belly breathing or diaphragm breathing. So, and then again, my motto is strengthen before you strengthen. So if you're held tight, how are you going to get those muscles to contract if they don't lengthen first? So when you do your belly breathing, your belly expands, and then when you exhale, the muscles will work better and your core will come back together. But if you're just gripping with your diaphragm and your pelvic floor and your core, nothing's moving. So it'll help your core get stronger if you do the belly breathing.
Okay.
One thing I do, go ahead. Oh yeah. And one thing I do tell them is to work on the diaphragmatic breathing, the umbrella breath where your ribs are, just so their belly doesn't get pushed out so much when they're dealing with the diastasis. Because
so you don't want to breathe like it's forceful. You want to breathe like you expand your rib cage, you kind of expand, and that makes your belly go out, and then when you breathe out, it kind of comes together. So you can think of it as like Venetian blinds, or some people call it like east to west breathing. But you don't want to force the breath. I always say like breathe like an ocean. An ocean wave goes in and then it comes out. There's no pause. There's no like quick in, quick out. So you don't want to force the air into your stomach. It's more passive. And if you breathe in through your nose, that'll be easier. So you can just take a big deep breath in through your nose, and then exhale. And then you can envision this coming back together on the exhale. So does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Mom, can I take a picture?
Yeah.
So didn't you? Oh, can you hear me? Did you guys?
I didn't hear that.
Breathe
like
it feels counterintuitive, but it's the way we're supposed to breathe for the core. So.
No, it does feel backwards. And I know when I first started hearing, doing the breaths and breathing in and breathing from your diaphragm and all that, it seems it's backwards. I guess I always thought if you breathe in, you're sucking your stomach in and then you're blowing out and you're blowing your stomach out at the same time, because that makes sense in my brain. I'm taking it in, so I should suck it in, and then when I'm blowing it out, I should blow my belly out at the same time. So it's really hard to really stop myself, because I'll find myself doing that and stop and say, okay, wait, and I have to think about it and then do it again. So.
The only way you're going to do it right is if you practice it when you're not stressed. Because if you do it when you're stressed, you're probably going to have to think too much. It's not going to work right. But I went as a pelvic floor therapist before I even knew how to breathe that way. Like, we just isolate and do Kegels all the time, and we weren't taught in our training that it was a coordination of the diaphragm and the pelvic floor. And we learned that from yoga and Pilates instructors, and so now this piston science, or this pelvic floor piston idea, has kind of taken off. But I think it's from our trainers and our we work together with other professionals. So it was really hard for me to learn. I was always trying to hold in my stomach all day long, but that's not good either. It's supposed to expand first before it can contract.
Right, and I think with me too, that's been another struggle with me, is not walking around sucking in my stomach all day long, because that's, in my mind, it's like, okay, my belly's sticking out, I have a diastasis, I have a hernia, everything's sticking out. I'm tired of people asking questions, so I'm just going to suck in my stomach all day, and I'm just going to walk like that all day, and every time I think about it, I got to suck it back in. And so getting out of that mindset too has been difficult to remember, oh, that's not good. It's, I've got to let it out. And I think that's also stressful too, is because I'm trying to be like this all day long and suck everything in and everything, and now I have to remember, oh, relax.
If you're working the muscles correctly, it will automatically have the right tone that you need. It's just going to take practice. So, but yeah,
right.
A lot of people walk around, and the analogy I give them is like, if you have a tube of toothpaste and you squeezed it, where's the contents going?
Yeah.
Right? So you don't want to put all that pressure on your pelvic floor. That's like squeezing something and pushing it down. So just think of the tube of, don't grip the tube of toothpaste.
Okay.
Don't hands down, you know, so.
Okay. Yep.
All right.
Do you have questions about that, Kylee?
She's taking notes, I think.
Yeah.
No, that's good. I also struggle with that, just not even realizing I'm sucking in. Or if I go and I'm around people, you know, it's like that's what I automatically want to do.
You know, when you do it when you're taking pictures.
Yeah.
The photo snaps, and then you can let it out again.
Yeah.
That's when I say it's okay to do. But it'll automatically be held together if you're doing the exercises. Don't you agree, Olivia?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Because that's what they're always wondering. Okay, but when I walk, do I need to be focusing on exhaling and lifting and engaging? And I'm like, oh no. I want you to be able to walk around and learn to breathe with your diaphragm. You know, that needs to be a natural thing. But when they're doing the breathing homework, or when they're really focusing on like exercises, or even putting dishes up, or picking kids up, or getting out of chairs, that's when I really say, I want you to focus on lifting, you know, blowing before you're going, lifting, you know, engaging. But like with their everyday just walking or whatever, I don't want them to get in the habit of clenching and pulling at the pelvic floor all the time, because then you run into issues of it being too tight. So you have to lengthen and strengthen and lengthen and strengthen.
Yeah, teachers have the worst habits because teachers are stressed, and teachers run into the bathroom. They either hold their bladder all day, they don't drink. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
Teachers and nurses, I would say, are the two professions that like have the worst habits when it comes to the bladder, because they don't drink, so they don't have to go to the bathroom. So they might go 8 hours and they haven't come up for air, and they haven't gone to the bathroom, and they haven't drank enough water or sufficient amount. So, and my rule for that is if you go to the bathroom and your urine is not clear, then you're dehydrated. Or if you're thirsty, you're dehydrated. So.
Right. Well, I mean, and I've been bringing water. I've stopped. I'm not I've become a big coffee drinker. I stopped drinking the coffee. I've really cut back on soda. Even my green tea is so warm. I'm just trying to drink the water. And some days, even if I do drink water throughout the day, I mean, it can be, I get here at like 7, 8 o'clock, and so I leave at 4, and sometimes by the time I get where I'm going, it's probably 6, and it's like, oh, I haven't been to the bathroom all day. I should probably go. Because even in the middle of the day, it's like, oh, I should go to the bathroom, but I can't go. So I just hold it and I forget about it, you know?
That's what made me think of this, is if you hold it in, that's how you get your pelvic floor into a spasm. And I have many teachers I've treated who have pelvic floor tension and clenching because they've held in their urine or their gas, or they postponed voiding, like they got an urge to have a bowel movement and they have kids in the class and they can't leave. They just hold it in and then they grip. So, it's just habits of having water, staying hydrated all day long. I mean, I know because I'm working, like I have back-to-back patients all day, but I drink like, this is I think 16 ounces, and I drink it with a straw because it's a lot easier to do this than to do this. So I drink with a straw, I can get my water in, and then I put lemon in it, or lemon oil, like essential oil lemon, just to get it in. But yeah, any kind of caffeine, what caffeine you drink, you have to drink more water to counter that, so they kind of cross each other out. So if you're drinking the caffeine, you have to drink another cup of water to go with it. So if you haven't had any water until a certain time of the day, like your muscles are dehydrated like a raisin, and they're 80 to 90% water. And if your muscles are dehydrated, they're going to be like clenched like that.
Right.
So there's the princess.
Yeah. So, but no, I'm working on it. And of course, next week after Thursday, I can go to the bathroom whenever I want to, and I'm not limited. So I am working on it. It is hard, but it's unfortunately it's one of those things, and yeah, I shouldn't have to schedule my bathroom breaks, but it is what it is. So I try to make sure. I do. I try to make sure I go at my lunchtime, And then if I have a free period in the afternoon, I try to make sure I go. Sometimes if I have to go, luckily I have a teacher and I'll just say, we're like, we have to go. So we just go. So sometimes it's just, my brain is just like, oh, you can wait. And then I can't wait. And then I'm like the little kid running to the bathroom, and trying to hurry up and get there so I don't have an accident. But it's okay. I'm working on it. So it's interesting to hear how that all works together, even like you're saying, sucking it in or being tension. And I didn't realize how that all works together with the pelvic floor. So yeah, that's good for me in my mind to get that visual. So I appreciate it.
Don't make it so hard on yourself, because like I said, it took me a while to get that breathing down, and I had to wrap my head around it. And I was a pelvic floor therapist already for 10 years before I
Okay.
So and I was teaching my patients all day long how to do this, but I wasn't doing it myself.
Right.
So.
Right.
And you maybe even feel shortness of breath when you try it because the diaphragm isn't used. It's not very strong. So I know some women are like, I don't feel like I can take in a deep enough breath with it.
And that's where you put your hands under your rib cage and kind of like just, if it's tight in there, oh mine is tight too. Right there, just kind of like, or you can kind of massage along your rib cage like that on your skin, just to kind of loosen that up so that it can expand. Because if it's just gripping all day, it's not going to expand. So.
Okay.
Yeah. I've never done that, Janine.
What's that?
I've never done that.
Oh, yeah.
The rib cage, yeah.
It's kind of tender in there if you press in there. I mean.
So that's great to help your breathing. And y'all probably, you understand how all this works together to help your diastasis, right? I know y'all hear me all the time, but I love to have Janine come in and kind of give her wording, because it's going to sound different than me. So a little bit different, but and more knowledge above. So that's why I was just making sure, because we end up talking about pelvic floor and breathing a lot with diastasis, and some women are like, well, how's this helping this? So I know that y'all heard me talk about all this, but I just want to make sure.
Mm-hmm. It's helpful.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm going to hop off. I'm going to go so I can do a quick lunch before I have to go back. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye.
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 What were you saying, Janine?
Yeah, I was just going to say, everything that we do in the exercise facilitates this pattern, like all the exercises that you're giving to your clients and everything that I'm giving to my clients, we're trying to lengthen on the inhale and strengthen on the exhale. So we're basically like using the breath to get those muscles to come together on the exhale. So every time you blow out, you're basically pulling those abdominal muscles back together.
Yeah, right.
Which is why we talk about the breath so much, because those muscles, like your abs, don't work in isolation. They work together as a team of 4 muscles, which is, the diaphragm and the ribs, the pelvic floor on the bottom, and then from the front, it's the transverse abdominis, and then on the backside, it's multifidus. So those 4 muscles create this canister effect that kind of holds everything together and makes your girth smaller and your waist too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But it's not meant to be held in all day to get along. So that was actually good that she brought that up, because that's an important point that a lot of us walk around. We think that's normal to do that, and it's not.
Right. Right.
So at what point do we mess that up, when we just kind of
Pregnancy.
in? Yeah, like, because I had my kids come over and I said, put my hands on their ribs. I'm like, okay, breathe. Because I just want, are we born doing it right and then we just mess it up,
Yeah. The first time you fall, you mess it up. The first trauma that you have, the first time you fall off a bike, the first time you fall off a skateboard. I mean, all those little traumas that if somebody pulls the chair out from underneath you, like it disrupts the core, like the naturally occurring core, because these things happen in men too. And I see a lot of college girls who have pelvic floor dysfunction because they're an athlete, so they're in sports. So, particularly the sports where there's falling involved, like basketball, volleyball, like they're diving for the ball and they're sacrificing their bodies. So their cores are messed up before they even have children usually.
Don't you think that sitting a lot too, because it shortens the pelvic floor? really.
Oh, yeah, we're not meant,
creates
our
those issues.
ancestors did not sit like this, yes.
Yeah.
And they squatted too. They did a lot more
Yeah.
squatting
Mhm.
and, work outside. They didn't spend time sitting like we have. But, we can't all be farmers and we can't all be outside. So,
No, but you can learn natural movements around your house and doing things. I do a lot of that. Like I squat when I do when I clean my floors.
exactly.
Instead of my mop, I'm on, and I'm doing that as much as I can squat or getting the dishes or picking up stuff. I do as much of that to get that natural movement in.
Yeah.
And some days, if I'm in a rush, I forget and I'm like, wait, stop that. Or even as simple as blow drying your hair, like instead of crunching over, hinging at the hips and, not rib flaring. And so there's just all kinds of ways you can add in natural movement. I've even done stuff like,
you just pull your abs in, so you could be like, on your hands and knees. And as you're on your hands and knees, you're kind of like pulling this in, or like when you lift weights, like you're doing this, or, you're just holding this in. So when I brush my teeth, I lean over and I'm pulling that in. Like that's when it's okay to pull it in. You're just doing it and you're not walking around holding it in all the time. So I think that's an important distinction,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we're talking the same language.
Yeah. I even do silly things like turn my lights off and on with my feet.
Okay, I don't do that, but I don't think I could reach because they're not in the same, it's not by my bed.
Yeah, I just always am like, well, how can I do something different today? Or like put on my shoes where I bring my leg up and balance on one foot and bring my knee up. So I'm balancing and not like leaning over at the hip, but keeping my hips strong and seeing if I can do that. And then, trying like laying down and doing it. So just trying to find different ways to create an uneven, like you're balancing or, if y'all saw me, if you had a video on me, y'all would laugh at me.
It's all good.
So any other questions, Kylee? I know you probably had some. So
I've been doing the two, like the stretches, the side plank, and then where you open up on the side. And I was gonna ask, when I do that, is it just a fluid, like you open on the inhale and then close on the exhale, or do we open and kind of hold it for a little bit and then close?
Fluid, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so as long as you're inhaling, you're moving, and then when you're exhaling, you're moving the other direction.
Okay.
So you're just pausing and then turning around. Kind of like an ocean wave.
Okay. I also, I'm not sure if it was related to those or not, but the next day I feel like I kind of triggered like this, just my sciatic. They on both sides were a little, because I tried it on both sides just to see where I was stretch. But it wasn't like flared up like normally it would be really bad, and I have to do the kind of that is it piriformis stretch where you bring in your knee. That usually the next day it'll be gone if I do that. But anyway, it wasn't bad at all, but there's just like a hint of that feeling.
When you did the rotation?
Well, just the next day. So I'm not sure. That was the only new thing I guess I had done. So I didn't know if maybe just.
Did it get better throughout the week as you did it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you probably woke up some muscles, but true sciatica is pain below the knee. So if you have buttock pain, that's really probably more piriformis related.
Okay. Well, that's mainly where it is. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you could stretch your piriformis first if you wanted, and then try that because you're probably taking up the slack because your hips are tight.
Okay.
So do you have anything, because we didn't work on any things for your hips, did we, with Janine? So if she's got tight hips.
Did you try that thing where you drop your leg to the side, Kylee, to see? I don't know if we did it.
I thought we did.
Yeah,
And you were,
a little bit on the left.
yeah.
Later.
Is that getting any looser?
Maybe slightly.
Okay. It should be like right after you do the side plank, check it again, because if it opens up, then that's a sign that you're doing the right thing. It's just that you just have to convince your brain a little bit more times that this is, you know, you want to hold yourself together with your core, not your hips.
Okay.
So do you think go ahead, Jenny.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, do you think when you lay down and you rotate your knee in, would that be good for her?
Oh, the stirring thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can show you that. So, let me go to my table here. Let me see. I'm always trying to figure out how to get this so you guys can see it. This is good practice for me. Okay, you can see, right? So this is what I like to do is knee to chest, but you rotate your hip using your knee with your hand on your knee. So I'm not moving my muscles of my hip or my knee. My hands are doing it all. Ooh, I just got vertigo. Hold on.
You needed that today?
I'm having the allergies are so bad up here, the pollen from the pine trees, and I'm not usually allergic, but oh my gosh, it's really bad because we need some rain. So you go clockwise and then counterclockwise.
Okay.
About 10 times each direction. And you'll notice when you first start, you might have tightness, but then you can make bigger circles. Okay, so I usually start little and then I go bigger.
Okay.
And if you get a catch, don't do that. And do both legs.
If you get a catch, she doesn't need to do it?
What I meant was if you get a catch, don't push into the catch. Like just shorten the motion. Oof.
Like if something hurts or doesn't feel.
Yeah, like don't force the motion. If you can't get into that and you feel
Okay.
like catching, just make it a smaller angle. Like don't go so big. Don't make such a big circle. So, and it just feels good. Like that's a great way to either start or end your day. Like I have tightness in my hips. And I could have done that for another 5 minutes and it just felt really good. So.
Okay.
Are you sitting much like during your day or are you?
Well.
Like are you in your car driving and stuff like that? Like driving kids around?
No, this past year, I homeschooled, so we were home, but I'm doing stuff a lot. So, but I like to just have a minute to rest, or I guess if I'm sitting down doing some work with them, but I mean, not a whole lot, but.
You cross your legs when you sit?
No.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I do like to put them under me though, like one leg.
Oh, like one under, yeah.
Yes.
That could contribute to the problem.
That's been a really hard habit for me because I love to sit with my leg underneath me. But sometimes if I still do, I'll go, okay, well, let me just kind of balance it out. And I know it's not like 100% great, but every now and then it's like, I just want to cheat and sit with my leg underneath me.
It all depends on if you're having issues. Like if you're having pain, especially in your sacroiliac joint area and the backside where the dimples are, that's probably not the best way to sit. But if you're doing relatively good and you've been mobile and, then it's okay, but it's just, you have to listen to your body and know what it's telling you. So like bleacher seats, or my other rule is when you sit, this is what a lot of us do. We have our knees up in our chest, we're working on our computers or, we're kind of like sitting here like this, like, or bleacher seats where we're sitting and leaning forward. So in general, this angle between your trunk and your legs should be at least 90 degrees. So if you're going to sit like that, have your legs down a little bit more, but don't have them up in your chest, because when you're like that, that's making your hips tighter because it's encouraging the pattern of what wants to get tight, which is in the front of the hip, and the back side is fighting with it. So it's like the piriformis and the hip flexor kind of play tug of war with each other. So plus, fetal position, we like to get fetal, and then that makes our hips tight. So I'm more of the, like, get up and stretch the front of the hip, you know, and too much light coming in. Hold on. You know, like a hip. Can you see my hip there?
Yes.
So, like, I would tend to put, like, one arm ahead, like, overhead.
There we go.
One leg in front and just really stretch and tuck your butt underneath, and you really get a stretch in through there. You could do a hip flexor stretch to counter, you know, if you're sitting or doing too much where you're going to have your knees up in your chest or something like that. So, and I just watch my dog. My dog stretches, like, he'll stretch out and then he's, you know, like, this idea that we have to hold something for 30 seconds isn't really, it doesn't change the fascia. We just need to tell the brain. Like, you could just literally, like, stand up and stretch and put your arms above your head and then you're back, you know? So as long as you're moving in those directions, a lot of us therapists now, that's kind of what we tell people. It's not static hold, it's movement and going into those patterns.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I'm home, I'll sit on the bench, I'll sit on the floor, I'll sit on my stability ball, I'll sit in different positions, I'll sit, like, I try, or stand up and, like, even balance on one leg or whatever, just trying to get different movements in. So I'm, you know, that seems to help me and I feel better. I'm not as stiff when I'm moving more, but I've noticed when I, like, am on a deadline and I really have to focus and I'm sitting more, then that's when I start noticing some more catches, stiffness.
Yep. The other population that I treat a lot of are people who are high-strung type A personalities that are sitting at their desk and they don't know how to get up from their desk. So engineers, I'll put them in that category too. So.
Oh, yeah.
The men,
yeah.
When I have to treat men, I can usually guess what their profession is. It's either engineering or they're a salesperson and they're sitting in their car all day.
Now, my husband is a salesperson. He sits all day, but he's the most chillax person you'll ever meet. Like, he's like, psh.
That's so nice.
Yeah. Then I'm like, does anything ever really bother you much? Not really. Not really.
Well, that helps keep you in balance. That's a good.
Oh, yeah, because I'm like the horse, and he's like, whoa. You know, he's pulling on the reins. Wait. But we balance each other out really, really well.
That's really good.
Yeah, because sometimes he needs a little oomph. Come on.
I get it. I have a husband like that too, so.
Do you have any? Go ahead, Denise.
I was just going to say, I tend to be the type A person, so I have to, like, okay. You know, I need him to calm me down and, like, what's the big deal, you know? So.
Yeah. I think I'm in the middle. I can fluctuate. Sometimes that way and sometimes relax. So.
You know, well, and it's also learning that, like, it's okay to be at those moments. There's times when you got to get it done and you got to be in that stress mode, and then there's times when you got to be chill. So there's a time and a season for everything. That's kind of
yes.
So
do you have any other issues going on, Kylee?
I was going to ask, I have neck pain, which I've had for a long time on my left side, which I thought Tanya had mentioned that ball thing, so I didn't know if that was something similar that would help me, or
does your neck feel limited to the left when you turn it?
Is it more like this?
Yeah, and then that's the other one I was going to ask you. What does it feel like when you go sideways?
Like range of motion wise, like I guess, I mean, I stopped more on the left because it kind of hurts, you know.
Yeah.
But
what happens if you tuck your chin back and just go like that? I call this the ugly guy coming to kiss you.
That's funny, Janine.
I mean,
I don't know why I'm picking on a
okay.
guy.
It feels okay. I mean, I can feel whatever that is kind of engage.
The easiest thing that you could do, if you got one-sided pain, I mean, you could go like this, like tuck and then pull it to that side, or you could just tuck, ugly guy coming to kiss you, and then release it, tuck, ugly guy coming to kiss you. So it's like your chin's on a shelf. And that could just help align, like, a couple of reasons. I mean, your head's like the weight of a bowling ball. So when we sit with our head forward in the least bit, that makes our neck muscles tight. And I probably should have mentioned this also to Toni, because, like, you know, if your head's not on your body and it's forward, that's making your trap muscles have to hold your head up. But then you would be equally tight on both sides. So that kind of throws that theory out of the water a little bit. I think when people have it on one side, it's typically that the gel inside the disc is getting pinched. Because when you come to that left side, you're pinching it. So you don't want to stretch it this way, because then that could make that could, like, imagine if you have a knuckle, like a cut across your knuckle, and you keep bending it, that's not going to heal, right? You know, so you don't want to take this and keep cranking on it. It'd be better to go to that side. So don't cradle a phone, you know, either way. And then be careful on your pillow that you don't have your head too far forward. So you want your head on your body most of the time, and then maybe go in the opposite direction backwards, like ugly guy coming to kiss you, and then even looking up, and then coming back, and then back out.
Because we're so much like this.
Yeah. Yeah. So you start, when you go back, you want to first tuck, do a chin tuck like that, and then you go up and back and then down. And if it feels tight, it probably means you need to do it.
Going back, that hurts me going back. That's what I think.
If you do it and it hurts, it's okay. If you do it and you make it worse after you repeat it 10 times, the pain or neck pain that's really coming from their cervical spine, and when they stretch like that after they do it 10 times, the pain that's like in their arm or down in their shoulder blade goes away. So we call that centralization. You always want the pain to come to the source of the problem, which is the spine. So as you do this exercise, if you do 10 of those and you're like, oh, well, now I can bend my head that way and it doesn't hurt. If you have an improved range of motion or improvement in the pain, then that's a green light that that's a good exercise. If you do it and you have pain in your hand now, then you say that's a red light, because the pain's not supposed to go out your arm. That's not how it gets better. So it gets better coming towards the source of the problem. So you probably have, like, the gel that's in the disc is just a little bit in the donut. It's still in the jelly donut, but it's off to the left maybe. And so by bending in that direction, you're going to kind of squish the jelly back to where it goes. I mean, that's kind of the theory behind it. So. Okay. They're called McKenzie exercises. So that's how we treat, like, if I have somebody with pain down one arm or pain down one leg, that's how we would treat it. But I would have them address the side component first before they would go backwards. So, but generally, like, especially if you're sitting at a desk, like I know when I'm on my computer, if I'm sitting too long, I have to stop what I'm doing, do the ugly guy thing, look up, and then come back. And I do that like 5 to 10 times. And then I can sit and I'm not, you know, because I'll be typing away. I get into a bad posture. So partly that too.
Yeah. If I'm stressed, like, didn't I tell you I was like feeling like, oh my gosh, there was just so much pain here like about a month ago, and it was just because I was noticing I was just doing this more, and now I go, stop it, get down, and I do put my neck back, and like the pain is just, it's not even near what it was. I mean, it can be a little sore sometimes, but gosh, like my husband would touch it and be like, oh my gosh. So now it's like, oh, so much better.
So again, movement solves a lot of problems. So move in the direction of the pain and then backwards to give that a try.
Move in direction of pain. That's neat. I've not heard that.
So you don't want to stretch it the opposite way. Toni didn't have a lot of time when she was saying how she goes like this. I probably would have corrected her and say I wouldn't do that stretch, you know. Like I wouldn't do it both sides, and I definitely wouldn't do it away from it. Here, you don't want to crank on it that way. If anything, you want to go that way.
So if you're hurting here, you're going to go towards it.
Yeah.
Huh.
And you're going to do it with the chin tuck. So you're going to repeat it. So you're not just going to do it one time and make it mad. You're going to do it repeatedly. And then after you do it repeatedly, you'll notice that it improves in the mobility and you won't have the pain as much. So.
Okay.
All right. So Kylie, you're good otherwise?
I think so.
Okay. Good.
Okay. Can I just ask one fast question, Janine? If your legs like are really sore to the touch, like you put your hands and you rub them, or a foam roller hurts pretty bad, does that mean your fascia's not healthy or your fascia's not good? I was just curious.
If your legs are hurting where in your thighs?
Just like anytime, like you can rub your hand up your IT band or just anything and it's just real sensitive, or like even just a foam roller or anything just hurts pretty bad. Like I've seen you do some scraping with the fascia. I think that would like literally kill me.
The scraping feels good though, because the scraping is just sensory on the surface. The scraping that they used to do is called Grafton, and they used to like get in there and dig. And what we have found with the research is that it's better to do a sensory thing. So which you can get through movement or you can get through a foam roller, but I don't foam roll my IT bands anymore because they're supposed to be tight. What I foam roll is I foam roll the quad, because the quad, especially the lateral quad or the outer quad towards the IT band, is the one that's really pulling on my IT band. So if I roll that one out, my IT band feels better. It's just that the IT band is getting pulled from the hip flexors and the quads being tight and the glutes aren't strong enough that side.
So something like the fascia blaster would be bad because it really digs in there.
I just would do it lighter. Like I wouldn't dig. I would just do it more on the surface, because you just want to tell those little mechanoreceptors in the fascia and connective tissue to tell your brain. The brain's in charge. The brain is going to get the information coming in like intelligence, and then it's going to choose to send the troops to a certain area. But if it's just hearing the message of tight, pain, tight, it's going to keep sending that message back down. So it's just a feedback loop, and the brain is king, you know. So the brain is in charge of all this. So, but you're going to get the brain to listen with a lighter touch or a quiet touch versus a hard push, you know. So we've kind of changed on, like even when I do fascial work on somebody, I'm not cranking on them. I'm just pulling lightly, you know, pulling on the mechanoreceptors. Those are the little sensors that tell the brain to let go. So it's lighter, not harder. And that's a really tough concept for us people who are in a hurry to get it done.
Yeah, I was going to say that's...
Do it fast and hard and it should be better, but then the brain goes, oh, that's traumatic, and it makes it tighter. So you can get a fascia blaster, you just got to go lighter.
Well, I have one. My husband had got it for me, and I can't bear. I'm like, oh my gosh, this hurts so bad.
Does it have the knobs in it? Is the one with the knobs in it?
Mm-hmm. And I just think so. I'm just doing it lighter, yeah. Because I mean, they're like, you need to. It may create bruising. I'm thinking, you're crazy.
Oh, gosh, no.
I am not doing that. You're nuts. So I really have been doing it lighter, just because I've heard that if it hurts, your fascia's not healthy. So I really got it for like, you know, some of that fascia tissue. So
you saying fascia?
Fascia?
You saying fascia?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Why? Can you not hear me?
No, I hear her. All I hear in the background is her going, fascia.
Oh, yeah. So funny. I know.
Word for a little girl.
You should hear. She'll go, oh, she's wearing high heels. Those aren't good for her bones. That's not good for our pelvic floor. Dusty's like, did you hear what she just said? She just said that wasn't good for her pelvic floor. Well, she's learning.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah. So less is more. Less is more.
Less is more. Okay. Well, good. I've been doing it right then, except because I can't take it any otherwise.
Yeah. Don't bruise yourself and don't traumatize yourself, because your brain does not like that.
Yeah.
It's a change in our mindset, because that's what we think we should be. You know, more is better, but not really.
Not really. Okay. And movement. Just remember that, Kylie. Movement can help a lot of things.
Movement helps the fascia too. That's my point that I was making. It's just movement patterns, changing your position is changing the receptors that go to the brain that change the tension in your body. So.
Okay.
So they're saying that's the new buzzword is movement.
Yeah. That's Katie Bowman,
You know,
too.
that's, everybody's speaking it. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
like, it's what we're saying in our circles too, you know? So it's a little bit different than what we would call range of motion or mobility. We're saying movement.
Okay.
Movement is key.
Well, I'm good. Are you good, Kylie?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. I'm going to let Jenny get back to work.
Yep, we got a few more people to treat. All right. I'll see
All
you
right.
guys.
Bye,
Thank you.
y'all.
Bye.